Hello and welcome to Tech Terrain. Good to have you with us. I'm Tony Ndoro. On this episode, we'll discuss farming sustainably and farming profitably. How can you do both at the same time? André Jooste from Potato South Africa shares his thoughts on the most important considerations when it comes to farming. I'm then joined by Sinelizwi Fakade, a successful farmer from the Eastern Cape, to share his amazing journey with us. Also stay tuned for a discussion with Team John Deere when they explain to us what a distinct customer experience over a lifetime means to them and to you. So that is the fantastic lineup that we have for you for this episode. Make sure you go online to techterrain.co.za for more bonus material that we upload every single week. This episode starts now. Well, we start this episode with the discussion about organized agriculture. Why is it important for you as a farmer, for any farmer, to be part of an organization that represents your commodity, or the farmers who are also farming what you're farming? Well, we're going to discuss that right now. I've got André Jooste here from Potato South Africa. André, are you well?
I'm well, thank you, and yourself?
I'm very good, thank you. Good to have you with us. I suppose let me ask that question. That's the first question I must ask you is, why is it important, if I'm a potato farmer, why should I join Potato SA?
I think it's important because a farming operation requires your full-time attention, from the marketing, financing, working with labor, everything that is required on a farm. But there's many other issues that also need attention. For example, talking to policymakers, talking to regulators, talking to the markets, gathering of information, doing research, assisting upcoming farmers. So there's a whole range of issues that if you're an individual farmer, you will not really get to it. And that's why organizations like Potato South Africa and its peer organizations are really important.
Let's talk about the assistance that you mentioned now to farmers or young farmers or new farmers. Let's call them new farmers who may want to come into farming potatoes. What sort of assistance is there?
Yeah, I think from a producer organization point of view, we assist with business plans, we do soil analysis, we assist with pre-feasibility studies. We've got a grant system for 4 years, we bring in expertise. So it's a whole support package, and we also do the coordination, what we refer to as a business development unit, to make sure that all stakeholders are around the table when the planning and the implementation is done.
Yeah, because it's not an easy thing, is it, to start a new business, especially in the agriculture space?
No, I don't think it's easy, and I think it's many times romanticized. The farming is a 24/7 job, not an 8 to 5 job. You work until the work is done on a particular day. Nothing waits until the next day.
Yeah.
So when you start out, you need to understand that very clearly, that you're going to be there 24/7.
What are the key attributes one needs to have when just on a personal level when you want to get into farming?
Yeah, it's absolute dedication and the love for farming. Farming needs to be in your blood. You need to be able to work with people. You need to be able to work with nature, because that is nature is the one variable that you can't control.
Yeah.
And it will change from day to day, from season to season. And you need to have the ability to be diligent to manage your farming enterprise through very difficult circumstances.
Okay. The market itself for potato farmers from South Africa, in Africa, are we exporting? Where's our biggest market?
Our biggest markets are to the north of us, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique. There's product going into Lesotho, Swaziland. And then you will find the occasional product that goes up further north.
Are potato farmers using new technology?
Yeah, I think in future, precision farming is going to become more and more important, especially given the increase in input costs. So you need to optimize absolutely what you put in the ground, when you put it in the ground, where you put it in the ground. So precision farming, use of drones, we're using satellites to monitor crops. Like I said earlier, you don't go to your potato field once a week. You need to know what's going on there each and every day.
Also, André, you say it's got to be in my blood. I've got to love farming. And then what's the first step I take after that? Let's say I've got a good piece of land and I want to start a farming project.
Yeah, I think the first important thing is to go and see what you can produce. Is there a market for that? Adam Smith, the author of The Wealth of Nations, once said, consumption is the sole end and purpose of production. So there's no sense in producing something for which there's not a market. So once you find a market or where there's a need for a product that you can produce on the soils that you have, you need to do a comprehensive business plan. And this is where sometimes we make a mistake. A comprehensive business plan is that you consider each and every aspect of that business, from the business structure, who's going to manage the business, who is going to do what on the farm. But very important then, and this is what the finance, so that's the jockey part. So what the financiers look at is the jockey part, but they also look at the finances. Does this make business sense? Is it a bankable project that you want to start with? And then you need to look at your cash flows, you need to look at your income statements. Sometimes new farmers don't have a big asset base. So, these management principles are looked at by financiers, whether it's commercial banks or your co-ops. And what you include in there, sometimes we make the mistake, we go up to gross margin level, and then we think it's a bankable business. We need to go down to the net farm income, where you take into account other aspects that's costs on your farm. You need to be able to cover your living expenses. You need to be able to cover your mechanization over time. So typically you need to plan for at least 5 to 10 years into the future. And sometimes those skills are not present, and then you need to get people in to assist you with that. And that's where mentors come in, that's where organizations like us come in, that's where your financiers come in. So the necessary assistance is there. You just need to ask, and you will get the necessary advice in terms of to do proper planning. Now, as the saying go, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So that's a startup. That's where you need to really do a good job.
So André, I hear what you're saying, but so please give me an example of what may seem trivial when it comes to my business plan, but could completely mess up my business in total.
Now, Tony, I think if we can use the example of a farm gate price versus a market price. If I only look at the market price, in other words, the price that realizes in the market and the one that are generally published and that we have information on, I could probably lock myself into only one marketing channel. I need to also look at the farm gate price. In other words, what is the price after I've subtracted all my costs of moving my product to the market where it is priced? So for example, if you look at the potato industry, the processors generally give you a farm gate price. Whereas if you deliver to the fresh produce market, you work on a market price. So the difference between the two is typically packaging costs, it's typically your transport costs, it's your market commission, etc. That's why I said in the beginning also that it's important that you peruse the market and see for what market segment you're going to produce. And you can also decide to produce for different market segments, but it's important that your pricing is right. And hence the reason why I say it's important. It's a very simple issue, but it's important because it can make a huge difference at the bottom line.
So André, before I let you go, you mentioned so many things when it comes to numbers, but you're still with Potato SA, and you still recommend that people out there, young people, go into farming.
Yeah, well, if it's in your blood, you need to go into farming. Just make sure that you do the necessary planning. That is critically important. Farming is not walking into a farm gate and now you're a farmer. There's a lot of things that needs to happen. And very important, you need to be able and willing to do it 24/7 a day.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, André Jooste from Potato SA, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Well, there you have it. André says you need to take farming very seriously. You need to be there on the ground at all times. Later on, we'll speak to a young man who did exactly that, and he succeeded. Well, if you've been thinking about starting your own farming operation or farming business, I've got the perfect man to talk about how he started his operation in the Eastern Cape province of South Africa. He's a young man, just 28 years old, and we've been talking here on Tech Terrain about trying to get young people into the agricultural sector. And he's done so, and he's done so very, very well as well. Sinelizwi Fakade joins me now here on Tech Terrain. Sinelizwi, are you well?
I'm fine, thanks, and yourself, Tony.
Fantastic to see you. You're 28 years old. Your peers are probably doing some fancy stuff in BMWs all over the place. How did you get into farming?
Oh, well, I think it started off with growing up in a rural environment. Grew up under my grandmother and mother, single parent, who then just exposed us to subsistence farming back then.
Yeah.
Fast forward from an education perspective, had the opportunity to get education. I think that's the most important thing. And thereafter took the opportunity to say, what do I want to be in the future? A lot of my peers back then were people who were after the doctors, the collar jobs, the tie and the aircon jobs. So it was a situation where to for me to be someone within the system of the country, and through advice from my family, it was agriculture orientated. So that's where it all began.
Was there somebody within that community who was a bit of a role model for you?
I would say yes and no. Yes, from a situation where growing up, as I said, from a rural perspective, the family that I grew up in was pretty much subsistence farming. But ultimately, it was beyond that. I had the opportunity to have a close relationship with my uncle, my dad's brother, who had a significant role in terms of giving me a direction. Businessman by himself, actually, who had a significant role that he played with regards to how I looked and perceived a career, which is agriculture today.
Yeah. And one of the key problems when it comes to agriculture on the continent is access to land. Tell us about how you got access to the land you're on right now.
Sure. So didn't have holidays when I grew up in terms of school holidays. I used to do a lot of vacation work where I worked at a commercial farm. Every single time I had a holiday, I was never at home. I was at the commercial farm gaining experience in the cold and the wet, doing the normal chores as a worker, getting to understand how agriculture actually works from a primary production perspective. So fast forward 7 years later, he sat me down and he said, well, look, do you want to start farming? And he offered one of his farms, which I successfully farm and own today.
This is the person you're working for, the farmer.
My mentor,
yeah. Your mentor.
So my mentor, from an agricultural perspective, Rob Farrington, did a lot of guidance pertaining to exposure to agriculture, and he still is with me in terms of the operation today as a mentor with 30 years experience in the industry. So some of the skills that I've learned from him and some of the skills that I continue to learn from him have played a significant role to what I do today.
Okay, so now you're offered one of the farms. It's on your marks, get set, go. What's the first thing you do?
Goodness, it's trying to get as much assistance as possible. So my biggest advantage was in him you had 30 years of experience from a production perspective. In him you had linkages in terms of how to get finance, and a person who really didn't say he has everything on the silver platter kind of a situation. So it was more to say, how much are you willing to do as an individual to meet me halfway as your mentor? I'm not going to breastfeed you with regards to getting off the ground, but ultimately I need you to be able to show commitment to the cause.
This is a huge operation. Your commodity is grain, and I know it's a family affair at the present moment. Explain that to me.
Well, my advantage was that my siblings, including my mother being a single mother who gave us the opportunity to be educated, once I was employed by Grain SA from 2016, I worked as a provincial coordinator, and all my salary, what I did was that I asked my mom to resign from her teaching job and asked her to go do a national diploma in agriculture, which I paid for from year 1 to 3. And then my brother also was a student at UFS with regards to agriculture, right up until honours in agricultural mixed farming. So with all of us having agricultural qualifications, my mom retiring from teaching, coming to join us, that's how the family fair has come about. So we're all on the farm with an experienced mentor doing the job that we do.
Listen, well done for getting your mom to do whatever you tell her to do, because I could never do that. Okay, but you have an expansion plan.
Yeah, so obviously the operation currently is 800 hectares under grain production. Obviously that's going to expand in this coming season to 1,300 hectares. But ultimately, from a business perspective, I've had to understand how to make money. This is a business and not a hobby at the end of the day, and I need to make the rands and cents count. So from an expansion perspective, it's obviously to process my product.
Yeah.
Also added onto that is the inclusion of a high value cropping as well. So I'm looking at various options, nuts being something that I'm looking at. Obviously climate plays an important role in some of the decisions. Look, it takes a lot of planning and it takes a lot of investment, but ultimately if you really want to survive within the industry, you have to be diverse, but at the same time being sustainable and successful at it.
100%. For you now to expand, you need more funding, I'm going to assume. Talk to the other guys out there that want to maybe take the same path. What's the best way to approach that when you know I'm at a particular stage, I need to expand now? Do I go out to speak with government? Do I go out and speak to commercial banks? What's the best way?
Well, look, I think the funding opportunities exist. It's a more of a penetration perspective with regards to getting the ears to listen to your story. So as a farmer looking to expand, you obviously have to have the results in terms of what have you been doing up until now?
Yeah.
How has your financial performance been happening up until now? And this is where a lot of farmers like myself, who are young and don't have the necessary exposure or the years behind them, with regards to financial plan, with regards to your finances in general, your record keeping needs to be up to date, because unfortunately, even if it means it's government, they will want to see who are we funding. Private sector more especially, as well as commercial banks. What type of a person are we funding in terms of business performance? How long has this business been going on for? So it's a situation of get your books in order, get your house in order from an administration perspective, and make it a point that your story is factual and is viable as well. But ultimately the key, which I used, get close to people who have been in the industry for a long time.
Okay, so now farming is not the most attractive, industry in terms of when it comes to young people, especially on the African continent. There's so many other things young people are looking to do. What do you say to the youngsters coming out of university? How can you attract them into the farming space?
For me, I think the time, because we've got such a high population of youth with regards to South Africa, I think the solution is to say, where can we be people? Where can we be sustainable individuals coming out of varsity and as new entrants into the industry? Agriculture for me, factually speaking, yesterday I saw an article speaking about 28% outlook in terms of expansion or performance as an agricultural sector. So the opportunities exist in the sector. I think the most important thing is you first have to love what you're doing. You first have to be passionate about what you're doing, and ultimately get systems in place or put yourself in a system whereby there is very minimal chance of failure. It's not going to be easy. It's never easy. But if you want to be successful in this industry, you have to understand that it starts in the heart before anything else, because it is an industry that has got very high risk, low returns at the beginning, but a lot of farmers are mega farmers today. They have to have started somewhere. So the ultimate goal is to make sure that you're in a position of getting to understand what you're wanting to do and making sure that your house is in order administratively for you to penetrate into the industries that can help you expand.
Love what you do.
Love what you do. Yeah. Love what you do.
That's key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Now, on this show, we've spoken in the past about the fact that one has to mechanize at some point whatever farming operation if you want to expand that operation. How important is that?
Oh, it's critical. Obviously, without number crunching on the show, but I think the most important thing is if I have to weigh the costs of expenditure between doing 4 operations or pulling an implement that does 4 in 1, there goes my diesel savings, there goes my maintenance savings. So I think from a mechanization perspective, one of the key things as a commercial grain farmer now is to always look to minimize your cost, but at the same time don't jeopardize in terms of output. So I think it's very important to streamline and be efficient in the type of mechanization systems you look for, and for you to achieve the bottom line that you can achieve. It's not easy, it's expensive, it's heavy investment, because some of this equipment that comes in, is extremely pricey for someone that is starting up. But I think ultimately it's all about negotiation and just making sure, what's your plan and being clear about your plan with regards to mechanization. Okay.
Before I let you go, when you talk about plan, you're currently doing your PhD?
No, I'm looking into it. I'm looking to do my PhD. Harvesting has obviously slowed me down completely from that perspective, but I'm looking to do a PhD study in sustainable agriculture. Busy choosing between various universities, but I have to complete the cycle of academics, masters being my highest currently in agriculture and food security. Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. All right, good one. Sinelizwi, thank you so much for speaking with us and good luck.
Thanks, Tony.
So there you have it, a young man just 28 years old and already a commercial farmer in the Eastern Cape province of South Africa. Good luck to him. It means that you can also do exactly the same. Now, John Deere offer a distinct customer experience. From the moment you decide to purchase a piece of equipment with them, they will back you all the way. To discuss more about this is Lafras Cronier from John Deere, and I've also got from Agri-Equipment, the managing director joins us, and that's Patrick Roux. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming through. Lafras, let me start with you. And I made that call right at the beginning and said John Deere offer distinct customer experience over a lifetime. That's one of your mantras at John Deere. But what exactly does it mean?
Tony, thank you. Yes, that's correct. It basically boils down to the following. We don't care if you buy a small ride-on lawnmower, if you buy the most expensive piece of equipment, you buy 1 or 10 or 20. We also don't mind if that machine now is 2, 3, 5, 7, 10 years old. We want to give you a distinctive John Deere experience over the lifetime of that product. It means we will continue to support you. Aftermarket service will always be top standard. Parts availability will be there. And we want to keep you going. That's what it means.
100%, because that's one of the key things a person would worry about when they buy a piece of equipment from yourselves. Patrick, let me come to you and talk about the technicians and the level of training within John Deere for the technical support that the customers would require.
Very important part of the process is only fingers that can fix a broken machine. We all know that you know the old saying, there's no bad machines, but that's not true. There are better machines, but they kept going and giving you a distinct customer experience by the people involved with that to fix the problems. And I think that is our claim to fame with John Deere, us as John Deere dealerships, is that we spend a disproportionate amount of our time making sure that we've got the best after-sales service out there.
After-sales service, and talking about those technicians as well. And one of the things that when people look at agriculture and even technicians from that point of view is, as we try to make agriculture look a lot sexier, get all the young people coming into it. What do you say to young guys there who might want to get into the engineering field? What could bring them into the agricultural field?
Tony, I think the agricultural field is one that is ever changing. It's exciting, it's vibrant, there's a lot to learn. You need to be computer literate, be good in maths. Technology is on the forefront of what we do. It's significantly different than 10, 15, 20 years ago. You can have a very successful career and you can do well for yourself.
Okay, so you're saying to the guys, come in and join us when it comes to the agricultural field and be part of what you guys are doing at the present moment.
Definitely.
And we're talking about after sales service here. Patrick, if I might come to you, what part of that after sales service is people that are driving in and what part is remote?
So that's the challenge within our industry, is that we work on vehicles that is not particularly well suited to travel long distance. So we have to have the ability, if Mohammed won't come to the mountain must go to Mohammed. And we do that. We have a fleet in Southern Africa of 165 service vehicles that we travel remote and work on customers' farms where the machine is working, and that is to guarantee uptime. 80% of our work done on John Deere equipment is outside of the workshop. It's on farm servicing, and that is just to keep the downtime to an absolute minimum. So that we have built our business around being good at remote servicing.
So remote services, the guy would come to my farm, they're fully equipped. Yes. Fully equipped with everything that they may need to service my equipment.
100%. So, our service vehicles are fully equipped with pneumatic tools and everything to work on bigger machines. But I think, technology-wise, that's where John Deere gives us the distinct advantage over any of our competitors, in the sense that we also have the ability to remote diagnose machines. So we can enter a machine's diagnostics remotely from our workshop, look at it, diagnose it, and have a high probability of rocking up at your farm with the correct equipment in hand, the correct parts in hand to service and fix that machine the first time we get around. Now, when you sit in South Africa, it might not be a big problem because most of your customers are situated within a 60-kilometer radius. But when you're in Zambia and you have to travel from one destination to another where it entails 4 hours worth of travel, it would be preferential for us to rock up with the right equipment and not come back a second and a third time. That's where the efficiency comes in. And I think that is where John Deere distinguishes itself from anybody else.
That's fantastic. Lafras, correct me if I'm wrong, but using the app is, most farmers can use that app in terms of their equipment, and some of the equipment that John Deere is actually selling at the present moment will actually tell you when it needs to be serviced. Am I correct?
Tony, that's correct. So just to quickly look at the type of technology involved, especially on the bigger equipment. Patrick mentioned, remotely going into the machine's diagnostic mode. We've got terminologies like service advisor remote. Technician sits in the workshop, diagnoses the machine, can actually use remote display access to look at what the operator or the owner of the machine is seeing on his or her screen and guide them through some basics, or then go out to the farm. And then we've got connected support. Connected support is where there is a variety of sensors on equipment that is programmed, and they use algorithms. If it picks up a specific frequency of failures or multiple sensors picking up signals, it issues an expert alert. That goes to the technician in the AFCRI workshop, goes to the owner of the machine, and it's proactive. So before the failure occurs, people is made aware of it, and doing this, you save a lot of downtime, you save a lot of potential cost by being proactive in a service environment.
Listen, you're talking about amazing technology that is in the John Deere machinery. But now I'm sitting here now, if I was a farmer somewhere, I would be overwhelmed by some of the things that you're talking about. Can I come to you? Do you give me training so that I could be able to run this machinery? Do you offer that as well?
Yes, Tony, I think John Deere builds these wonderful machines, and the customers have got the need to use the machines, and we as a dealer network are the conductor to get those two to work together and to optimize your fleet of equipment. So what we do is, obviously there's a range of technical specifications you can use, from the highest tech machines to really basic machines. So we've got one for everybody, depends on what your needs are. But doesn't matter what you buy, we'll give you training. We'll do customer clinics every year. For instance, we'll do clinics on combine harvesters, on tractors, on everything. We do clinics. So we invite our customers to come see us, so to sit in the clinics for us to refresh him pre-season so that he understands his machine and how to optimize his machine. Also, we have call centers available that you can call and say, help me, I'm in need, I'm stuck, to sort you out quickly and on the go. So it shouldn't be a daunting task. I think we are easy to use, if I can put it that way.
Okay, fantastic stuff. Now, lastly, Lafras, if I can come to you, there must be an opportunity here. If I'm an independent technician or engineer in a remote region, can I approach John Deere and say, listen, I've got the capacity to maybe service your machines? How do I start that conversation with you?
Tony, yes, that's a very good question. Africa is a large piece of territory, and there's remote areas where it's just impossible for the customer to travel hundreds of kilometers to maybe a dealer or vice versa. So there's a specific standard process in place. You contact our closest dealer or you contact John Deere online, and then we go through some steps and paperwork. We train you, we upskill you, and then we basically qualify you as a dealer certified local technician. And that means that in your vicinity, you can do some services on equipment for farmers in that area.
Okay, so that offers a business opportunity. That's fantastic.
Again,
Yeah.
yes.
100%. Gentlemen, thank you so much, Patrick Roux and also Lafras Cronier. Thank you so much for chatting with me and explaining a lot of things about John Deere and its equipment. So there it is. If you're an engineer or technician, you feel you have a business opportunity, you can actually get in touch with John Deere, speak with them, and they will train you on their equipment. And also, don't forget, when you purchase a John Deere piece of equipment, they have a distinct customer experience over a lifetime. That is what they offer you. Well, we've come to the end of this episode, but please go on to our website, techterrain.co.za, for bonus material uploaded every single week as we keep you up to date. Catch us next time on Tech Terrain, where we discuss how to get the most out of your land in a sustainable manner.